Hello, hello. Switch us over as well. Sorry, people, we were just too busy talking about podcasts for one reason.
Oh no.
Yeah, and now it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like now I brought it up and other people are going to be like, oh, podcast, oh. How are you doing, Angelo? It's good to see you back.
1 second, I almost died before that.
Great start.
But yeah, no, man, super excited to be back. We got some amazing portfolios coming up, so super eager to have a look. I love your shirt, by the way. We're very much matching. I should have worn my red one.
Yeah. I was like, I saw you wear that, and I was like, okay, we need to kind of match up, you know? I don't have blue ones though, not blue checkered, so.
I'm gonna bring my green one next time, just to keep things fresh.
The green one. Yeah, we need to switch it up every time. I think the majority that I have is just red, so I might be boring.
No, it's a classic look.
The classic. Yeah, that's true. We got some other people in the chat as well. We got Hudson, we got Daniel. Good to see you both here. And there's a bunch of lurkers in the chat too, so it's good to see you all here. Like Angelo said,
sorry.
yeah, we've got like a bunch of really interesting portfolios to look at. We're gonna look through 3 of the community, and then also 1 from Angelo's side as well, like we did last time. So let's switch us over. And then let's start out with... We're probably not gonna start out with this one, because this one is yours, right? So this is Elijah. Yeah. Sorry, Elijah. We're gonna keep you for last. Cool. So, first person that we have here today, as we're jumping straight into it, is Ola. Thank you so much for sharing your portfolio. Currently a 3D artist at Gameloft. Cool.
Oh, nice. Do they have a studio in United Kingdom? Thought they were in Spain.
I've got no clue. I think there's also like a Gameloft in Germany, maybe even Berlin. I have no idea. I feel like Gameloft is always one of those studios where like they've been around, but they're always invisible for some reason. I don't know why.
No, they do cool stuff, and used to like. I think I applied to them at some point.
I think I did
many
too.
years ago.
Yeah,
5, 6 years ago.
all the way in the beginning. I probably did apply to them too, because I was just like, look, I'm gonna apply to everything out there. So it's a Ukrainian studio. Oh, okay.
The more you know.
I definitely know that there are studios in other places as well, right? Oh, but you might be working for the Ukrainian studio if you are Ola. Interesting. Okay. So, let's have a look at the portfolio. So, first of all, like I kind of want to get started with like an overall impression, right? What do you think, Angelo? What's the first impression?
I mean, I'd say pretty good, because Ola claims to be a 3D artist, so I wouldn't expect a very catered portfolio. So I can see environments, I can see props, I can see even some characters, probably. I can see like shipped titles. Maybe I would like for these like logos and everything to be a bit more consistent. We see, 8 years of experience. You mentioned like solid background in traditional painting and architecture. Maybe like they could have showcased that a bit more, like have some folders that were basically traditional paintings, or like see all that extra work to showcase your whole artistic background.
Yeah, that would be my approach as well. If you're gonna do something like that, like having the separate folders where you can just be like, hey, here's some of my other stuff that I'm pretty good at, just to really sell yourself, right? That's what it comes down to at the end. I got a question for you, Angelo, because I've done this on my portfolio as well, but can you actually change the logos that you get from companies?
Ooh.
Because, okay,
honestly,
full transparency, I've done that. So I try to make like all the symbols or like all the logos consistent on my portfolio. But now that I'm looking at it, I actually maybe you need to get approval for that. But let's just ignore that I did that, right? I didn't say anything.
See, for example, with at least in my case of EA, I had to basically upload all of the photos, even the thumbnail that I would use to get approval. So like, I took some creative liberties with some of the images. For example, I think mainly for the thumbnail, to be honest. Like I might have increased the vibrancy or like the contrast or added a vignette, and it got approved. So maybe just do that.
In your case, that's probably the safe bet. That's probably that's what I had to do as well. But I changed them afterwards without really thinking about it too much. So
I don't think, especially if it's not like a super top IP, like I wouldn't worry too much about it, to be honest. It's like a gray area, yeah. Don't change it to the point that it becomes unrecognizable, or don't try to sell it as something else that it isn't. So
yeah, like the main reason why I want to bring that up is because maybe with those professional thumbnails you have like a lot less flexibility that you would otherwise have, right? So maybe it is nice that you have like everything on one page. I'm personally a fan of separating my professional and my personal work, but that's like more up to you. Like if you want to go with like the one page approach, that's totally fine as well. Yeah. Yeah, but my overall impressions are pretty good though. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say I was gonna do like I do the same. I usually try to keep the professional stuff in the first like in the top, just so you can showcase that you have that professional experience and you have shipped projects, and then you can have all the personal stuff right after.
Yeah, cool. Nice. Yeah, there's one thing if we're talking about thumbnails anyway, like over here, right? You got your name in like really small and like the logos in really small. I think that's probably because you just used one of the images that you use in the main page. If I need to go out on a limb, just make sure that you have like a separate thumbnail, right? Like it takes a couple of seconds, just crop it slightly differently and just make it all about the work. It's the perception of not looking like you're lazy, right? Like you're not skipping anything on the presentation of your portfolio. That's what that is all about. Because the rest of the portfolio is really well presented, right? Like really taken care of. And then I feel that the last thumbnail is kind of like, yeah, I kind of want to have some work on there real quick. That's kind of how it feels, right? Just by the thumbnail. Okay. Cool. Yeah, so we already kind of talked about the title, right? Like your title is 3D artist, so like we were saying before, it's going to be a little bit more generalistic, right? Because I see some vehicles, we got some props, we got some characters. That's all good. Maybe we can dive into one of the things here. Anything that stands out to you, Angelo? I love that she's chiming in and says like, yeah, well, I was lazy.
See, the thing is, you just have to hide it. Everyone knows I'm lazy, but here we are. Maybe we can go through the minion rush environments, and the fourth one. I see some nice colorful stuff, so and it's stylized, so that's my soft spot.
Yeah. Let's have a look at the minion stuff first then. Cool, so let's see. I worked as a member of the Minion Rush Kharkiv team on various running area environments and individually on seasonal room environments. That's awesome. Responsible for level design, the process, prop modeling, texturing, material set dressing. That's awesome. So like basically
everything.
Well, with help of the team, of course, but like yeah, basically the whole pipeline, right? That is awesome. That is a great experience to have. These look really cute. I like them. Yeah, like there's honestly, I love to look at professional work, but I feel like you can't really say too much about it, right? Because it was more like a studio decision rather than like a personal decision. But this looks like a fun little game to have worked on, honestly. Cool.
Yeah,
Some more organic stuff.
that's weird though, because like we can't really give feedback on like a shipped project, right? So like I think
Yeah.
this looks cool. The thing is, I can already see the limitation the team had when creating this in terms of like poly count. Things are low poly, like post processing. I can see like clearly aliasing and things like that. Lighting is like fairly flat, but that's what you can work with when you're doing, I assume, mobile games. So
Yep.
yeah,
No,
no,
cool.
it's like I love the colors, I love the style, but yeah, it's good stuff. I think
Yep.
the presentation works really nice because it has a mixture of things. I can see character sculpts, I can see environment shots, I can see different like biomes or like levels throughout. Like I can see at the very bottom I can see different, like, is that like a different screen basically? I don't know the context of the game, but
yeah, these are cool. Just like seasonal rooms, right? Is what they're called.
Yeah.
So they're just like snippets of like different seasons, I guess, right? For like different stages or whatever. They look really cool. I like that you added the sculpts in there as well. Like the sculpts, like the little cutout looks really interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Let's have a look at the fourth one then, right? Like the whale airship. That's cool. Small fan project based on Dewey Vance concept art. It's awesome. Yeah, very organic shapes. Like it. The thing that strikes me immediately is that it feels like really static, right? It just feels like almost like there seems to be, or like it has this thing where it looks like it needs like a lot of movement, but it's very static currently. So if you really want to take that to the next level in terms of presentation, like maybe doing like a little island around it, right? And then maybe like slightly animating it. Because it doesn't have to be fancy, right? But like really selling the feel that this is like a prop that is especially linked to something in the world itself, right? So just
wait,
really
Tim,
sell.
I'm gonna stop you right there. If you scroll down quite a lot,
no.
you're gonna see some animation. Yes.
Animation. Let's go.
Yes. It's hidden away, so I would still keep that as part of the feedback. I would put that like basically at the top.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, it's a shame. Like it's really hidden away, right?
Yeah,
This
I
is
mean you
cool.
missed it, so yeah. And
Yeah,
I would
basically
go,
when I
sorry.
go into like a post, like I go into like recruiter mode, right? And I look at like the top images, and then it's like, okay, I see like a lot of repetition happening now, so I'm just gonna go back up and go to the next thing, right? Yeah, this looks great. I would honestly like put that like all the way at the top, right? Have that animation playing, really sell what this is about, and then go into the quote-unquote more like static stuff, right? Like the more boring shots where you do like the breakdowns and all that kind of stuff. Have that at the bottom of the post, so that if people are really interested in how you approached something, then they can keep scrolling, but like anyone else has basically satisfied what they were looking for, and they can just move on to like something else.
Yeah, as you said, I would separate those two things. Like have the idle animation looping as the first image, have like a very nice high resolution render below that, and then start the breakdown process. And yeah, on the breakdown side as well, I would maybe like try to be a bit more detailed on the channels, like the texturing. We had like that discussion last time, if I recall correctly, with a couple of portfolios. I can see like some wireframes, but it's mixed in with the roughness channel. On the image on the left, I can see the wireframe on the base color. One has metallic, the other one doesn't have a metallic. I assume it's the character on the right.
Yeah, looks
So
like it.
it's a bit confusing. So like I appreciate that you try to showcase those texture channels and those UVs, but I think it's like everything mixed at the moment. So like it's a bit confusing what I'm looking at.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's missing that context, right? Like if you had imagine that the shot on the right, it's not like the texture breakdown of the character, but it would actually be just a vehicle itself with like the wireframe on top of it. And then you have your texture breakdown on the left. That would make more sense because now I can see like, oh, like there's a relationship between the two, right? Instead of just having like the textures just added to the end of it. Again, like I think most of it just comes to like really selling, right? Like selling that this is a piece that you're proud of and that has like a lot of context and has a lot of storytelling. Because yeah, I say this a lot, right? But like that's our job as environment artists, or like in your case, like as 3D artists, we need to sell the visuals from something, right? And when it comes to your portfolio, you have this added layer of not only trying to sell the visuals, but also yourself on top of that, right? So it's about really just polishing that up and showcasing that, like, hey, this is what I can do. I've laid it all nicely out for you, so you can make a decision or on whether or not you want to add me to the team, right? Or are interested in that. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up though, because I completely missed that animation. And it's not much, right? But it doesn't have to be. Like, it's just like a little bit that kind of sells it. It's cool. It's cool. Okay.
Before we move on, like a minor thing in terms of presentation that I would have. Like I just flipped through the concept art that you linked and the first shot basically. I love how close this is. Like you did an amazing job on the modeling and the texturing. I would just try to match basically the lighting and the background as much as possible, because right now we get like two completely different moods if I compare it with the concept. So like the background colors are different. And the lighting has like a weird blue tint, and I don't see like the same rim lighting that the concept has in like a couple of places. For example, the front of the ship, and also like on the left of the character. So those minor things.
Yeah,
I would try to match. Also on the balloon at the back. The concept has some like rim lighting on the side. So yeah, it's just that extra 5% to sell the piece even more, because
100%.
Everything else is super close to the original concept, which is amazing.
Yeah, 100%. Also just like the earthly tones, right? They kind of remind you of like a desert kind of environment. But also like the reason why those rim lights, that rim lighting is at the left side, is to separate like the actual asset from the background, right? Because everything is kind of like earthly tones. But that's like a really efficient way. I don't know if you have it in your asset. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, so for example, if you are struggling with some values around here, right? Like where you have like a lot of grays coming together, one way to separate that is having like a light behind it so that you get that nice little edge that is going to break it apart from the background. You kind of have that little rim there, right? Which is already doing a little bit, but you can really push that to the next level.
Yeah, you see that with a weapon like presentations way too many times, especially because they have similar metallic surfaces, which are very hard to like have a light to showcase otherwise. So you have to have like very strong rim lights, especially around metallic surfaces. Yeah. Which in your case, it's also the case.
Let's see, because I didn't. So that's from last year. Okay. I kind of want to keep that in mind, right? It seems like this is from last year as well. Let me quickly look. And then the door is from 4 months ago. Okay. So most of the stuff is coming from like last year. We also did have like a question in the chat as well from Hudson. Does anyone look at the texture maps, especially if it is a character? Yes, they 100% do, especially if they're interested in hiring you, right? Like the reason why we lay everything out in like the nicest way possible is that we are trying to market ourselves towards a studio that is potentially looking for people, right? That's the whole reason why a portfolio exists, right? If you just post art, like, that's fine, right? But yeah, if you're not looking for a job, that's like a completely different use case. But actually, it's kind of like a proof, right? That you can also do the technical setup. Because if you were in like a recruitment situation, you have, let's say, for sake of example, 2 exactly the same portfolios, but one does like share all the breakdowns and stuff, and another person doesn't, then they're still gonna have like a bunch of questions on the person's portfolio that doesn't share any breakdowns, right? So you're trying to clarify and basically like preemptively like answer questions that they might have, so that you get to the hiring like quicker.
Yeah, totally agree. I could make the argument that you can explain some of those things. Like, if you do an artist, it would be best to showcase like your workflows. Like I usually used to make a short PDF explaining every step and what my thinking process was for that step. And like otherwise, if you have articles, that's another very nice source to like showcase your workflows. And basically whenever you're in an interview and like the other person asks you, how did you do that, X and or Y, you just point them to the article, or you can just explain them on the spot. But it's always very nice to have like as much breakdown as possible on the personal pieces.
Like if I were to really distill most of the questions when it comes down to your portfolio, is you're trying to minimize the amount of steps or the amount of thinking that someone needs to do to get you in the door. That's it, right? So you're absolutely right, by the way, that you can have like articles and have that as like supporting things on the side as well, right? But like the issue, not the issue, like it is still good to do that, right? But like you're adding like an additional step in the process where you could have just done that on the portfolio itself, right?
Yeah, that's fair. We're just getting back to the point that I'm lazy. That's why I mentioned that. I'm just waiting for someone to ask me to make an article.
Work because you write like whole articles. Come on, man. So Hudson is saying, I get it, but you can't really appreciate those texture maps unless you slap them individually on the model. Yes, so that's a very good point. So that's why I brought up the thing of context, right? If you have the texture maps by itself, like we might as well be looking at something that we don't understand. But if we then have the texture maps next to the item, and then the item is next to it, and ideally, well, in an ideal world, you would have like, let's say you switch your texture map, and then it also switches like the input on the object, right? Because now we can link the texture map, like the 2D to the 3D, right? And that becomes really powerful because that can be like a GIF, 4 frames, switch between it, super professional, and like it's really, really easy to understand the context between the two.
And also, I would very much appreciate some very good UVs if I see them.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. Some nice topology, some, like really interesting use cases of certain maps, perhaps, like where you wouldn't necessarily think to use like this type of map, but then they did experiment with it. Just there's so much information that you can get out of it where you can see someone's like thought process like distilled into the textures and like the models. Okay. Let's see, Hudson is saying, okay, I think I would do a video where the texture map swaps. Yep, that's 100% fine. Anything moving is always a plus in my opinion. As long as you make it short and concise, then you're onto a winner. Okay, we're looking at an underground metro station from Kharkiv. This is awesome. I'm gonna play the video. Oh, this is from 2022.
It says posted last year.
Yeah, I'm just looking at like the title of the YouTube.
Oh,
I don't know
right.
if it's just like a time capsule, right? Could be. Because, yeah. Maybe this is like a time capsule piece, right? Where now this is gonna look like very different. This is really cool. I like the little bits of motion in like the video. Like it's not your stereotypical like smooth fade in, smooth fade out, right? There seems to be some actual movement happening. Very interesting.
Although, if I were to comment on the video anime, like the camera animations, I would try like a first-person approach because this looks like some shots are like straightforward, others look very confusing. Yeah, for example, after the first minute, I can see that this looks like a first-person viewpoint. So yeah, I would just stick with that perhaps because the initial camera animations look a bit unfocused. Trying to find the right word.
A bit chaotic. That's the word that I'm coming to. Like, it doesn't really know what it wants to be, right? Like you're saying, like if you just have like a first-person camera, then you would expect like, I don't know if they're getting up or if they're walking through it, right? Like a consistency in like the height of the camera. Yeah. It's really cool though. Like, great way of like using the highlights to really shine like a light literally on the roughness, right?
Oh
So
yeah,
good.
yeah. Super good. And all the reflections as well, the roughness imperfections everywhere. I think this is super good. Honestly, I like the grading as well and like the treatment of the overseen. If I only had one comment, it feels like there's too much like small radius of screen space amid-occlusion for some reason. Like especially in the first render, if you scroll all the way back. It feels like everything has an outline, like and the black. Just a black outline, I guess. Don't know how to explain it. So it feels like you're relying a bit too much on SSAO.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I wonder if that's also texturing.
See, if we had some unlit views, I could tell you that.
Wait, hold up. Let me scroll down. There is like a
that's
over
right.
here, so yeah, it does seem a little bit intense in certain cases, right? Where like a small strip has like a lot of AO. I think overall this is like a really great piece, you know? Really well presented. I would love to see some breakdowns, right? Like the materials used, kind of just like a breakdown of like the modules and the textures. I would honestly, in this sort of case, I would try to present. I would try to present the modular pieces still inside of the environment somehow, because I always dislike when you have a separation between, hey, this is my really awesome environment, and then we go back to like the standard Unreal Engine like neutral lit environment with just like a bunch of modular pieces in it. And you have a beautiful environment there, right? Because I saw we got some glimpses from like the hall itself. You could honestly just use that, right? So that would be great.
Just throw some of those doors and things around.
Yeah, exactly.
Use the same lighting, so it feels like that everything is in the right context. Because if you see the modular kit breakdown at the bottom, feels like it's very flat in terms of lighting, as if it might also be unlit to an extent.
Yep.
But super cool environment though.
Yeah, this is what I was thinking, right? So a very emotional piece as well. So I think this is like, from just looking at a glance, right, from your portfolio, definitely your strongest piece. I don't want to go the whole route where like, oh, if you have strong emotions, like you're gonna produce a better piece. But I think it definitely shines through when it comes to this, right? Because there is something something there, right? Like there's like a really personal attachment to this work, and you can tell by just looking at the images. So great work. Yeah, the main thing that I would say is I would love to see just like a couple more breakdowns. The presentation itself is really great. I would honestly, like if we're talking about like really small stuff, try to use ArtStation video so that you get that video auto playing rather than having someone click on like a YouTube video. And honestly, try to keep it like really short. Like this video was 2.5 minutes, I think. If there was a lot of variation in the video itself, I could agree, but you can definitely like shorten this down to like 30 seconds or a minute, right? Like easily. And still not lose all the important things that you wanted to showcase, right? So
Definitely.
yeah.
And you've already used ArtStation video on the whale airship, so should be doable. I don't remember if it has any more limitations now with like Pro and Plus, but if it worked on that one, I assume that it will work on this one as well.
Mr. J is asking, did you show the materials and decals? I don't think decals, but yeah, materials would be nice. Just showcasing that, right? And then color code the modular pieces. That could be interesting as like a little overlay, right? Like that you just do in Photoshop or whatever to indicate which piece is what. I don't think it's that necessary, especially with a relatively simple kit, like in terms of amount of pieces we have here. But it could be a good idea for bigger kits though. Cool, and then we have the door here, the good old door. Like it.
Love it.
Yeah, got that nice sculpt. Oh look, this is great. We got a little breakdown of like all the individual like textures, the detail lighting, roughness.
Yeah, wireframe, that's perfect.
Yeah, beautiful, right? Beautiful.
I would maybe add, for example, on the wireframe view, just pop the UVs on the side as well. Maybe that would be a nice addition. But yeah, that's like nitpicking, to be honest.
Yeah, do we have the UVs in here somewhere? I don't think so, right?
I don't think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's good to bring that up though, because that could definitely help. I would again like open up with your final post, right? Because your final post is like showcasing the door. Like it's like short and sweet, right? Just opening up, like really selling the idea, and then go into the static images. Because the rest of the images is good. There's not too many of them. This is a very nice post, honestly. Like I like it. Yeah, very clean. Very
So
nice.
I have a couple of nitpicks to make again. So if we go back to the bottom, like with the panning video, it's nice and great that it's very close up and I can see all the details. The thing is that if I pause the video, I can see motion blur, so I can really appreciate the door itself. So like if someone wants to see a specific part of the door in that video, you can really see because it's kind of blurred. Although I mean, she already showcases the door in the other static images, so that's not a super big deal.
Yeah.
But if that video's purpose is to showcase the asset up close in an animated form, I think that's something that would be beneficial to have.
Yeah. Interesting. I wouldn't even have thought of that, honestly.
No, because I definitely have done it. For example, in big environment pieces, whenever like people create walkthroughs. I mean, if you want to make it look cinematic, yes, definitely add motion blur. I love motion blur myself. I remember advocating for motion blur on F1 by default because they don't really like motion blur and it's a racing game.
Yeah.
So, had many discussions. There is motion blur, it's just disabled.
Yeah.
As far as I know, by default, or it's very limited. But yeah, that's a tangent. but if you wanna showcase things, it's better to not have it if it doesn't serve a purpose.
Yeah. Awesome.
And can I have another quick one?
Good.
Or are we time limit? Okay. On the second to last photo, where we have a close up of the door, I can see like some low res artifacts, which
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah, if it's super flattering for the amount of work you've done and the detailed sculpt you've got. So, and if we combine that with the sculpted version of the door that we see a bit higher up,
Mhm.
I can tell that you probably made all of those side bricks individually, which is great to do, but I would maybe make only 4 or 5 of them and then like place them around, just so I can save some UV space. Because that would automatically make everything else have a bit more UV space. You can scale things up and you can use like more resolution in the door itself instead of having to spread it through all those bricks.
Yep. That could definitely be an interesting approach, right? If you want to optimize things. But that's for sure.
Yeah,
it's kind of
you
hard
don't
to
really
tell
need
now.
to, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we
kind
don't
of hard
have
to
the
tell
UVs.
now. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say as well. Like, we're kind of missing that bit of information, right? This is like the age-old debate of like, oh, I'm presenting portfolio work. Like, do I go for like all-out visual quality, or do I sacrifice and show like actual real game art, right? Because I feel like the current trend has been for a while now. It's just go for visual quality, make everything look super nice, because the technical aspects are easier to learn than the actual like artistic.
Oh, definitely,
Artistic
yes.
ones.
And
I kind of also feel, and this is making an assumption, but this is coming from a personal experience, is that if you have worked on games, like you look at like asset creation in a different way, where you're maybe sometimes scared to use like a higher amount of polygons, you know, just to really make it like nice and like high resolution textures, right? Because what you're doing is definitely like applicable to games, right? Like no way about it. It's just I feel like there's this a disconnect, like especially on ArtStation, where you have to like raise your texture resolution to kind of make it sell better, right? So that could be like a thing that you could do as well.
And with all of that said, I think I'm gonna take it back because I paused the very last video in the first frame, and I kinda see them back to back. I think that second to last image is using a lower resolution of the texture, because in the video is very much detailed and it's perfect.
Oh.
Like this just looks lower res for some reason. Maybe it was like a mid mapping issue.
Oh, interesting.
Or like yeah, in the video it looks much more detailed than the render above. Okay,
might just
I
be
mean,
like an issue.
the sculpt and the texturing itself is like amazing, so these are just nitpicking.
Awesome.
I love it.
Okay. Let's have a look. This is probably like a little bit older work, right? So like 6 years old. Still looks interesting. What I would do with these characters is kind of what we mentioned at the beginning, right? Is have like a separate folder and call it like characters or old work, so that you can still showcase like the variation that you have, right, in your skill set. But it's you basically showcase to other people looking at your portfolio that you don't think that this is relevant to your current day skills anymore, right? Honestly, the rest of it looks really interesting. I'm a big fan of that underground environment. That looks really good because it is a full environment, right? With some of the other pieces, what I'm missing is definitely like a sense of world building, right? Like a world building or storytelling, where you take it just one step further and you make it into like really nice compositions, like in an actual world, rather than just, oh, here's an asset, right? That would be like first thing that I want to bring up. What is your first thing, Angelo?
Yeah, first of all, like we said in the beginning, just the placement and the priority that we have on, like, on the professional work versus the personal work. Right now, the professional work is somewhere sandwiched in between the personal stuff. So I'm not really sure, like, if I was to see that from a recruiter standpoint, what your focus is, even if it's like a 3D artist, right? First of all, like, I see a prop, then I see environment, then I see professional environments, then I see another character slash hard surface. I don't know where to categorize the airship piece, to be honest.
Yeah.
I would categorize it very close to the huge hermit crab one, because they have organic shapes, they have a character, but it's also like some hard surface elements.
Yeah.
And then we have the cars in between, so like, yeah, maybe like some foldering or some repositioning of things, just to like highlight basically what you want to work on. So like,
Yeah.
you might have a favorite, like if you want to do more props and environments, highlight that. If you want to do more of the characters or the cars, showcase that first. So it's kind of tricky, because you're saying your title is 3D artist, so you can actually do everything, and I can see that, and that's great.
Yeah. It's I think at least it is trying to highlight what is most applicable to the skill level that you want to portray, right?
Yeah.
That's I think what you should do. And like that means just picking the work that you think is the best and then putting everything else somewhere else, right? It might also be the case where if you do that little bit of cleanup, that you just have your front page be like the last two things and then your professional work, right? As like 2 rows, let's say. That would be more than fine. And then have like your older work like in other folders, let's say. I'm gonna add one last thing from my side, and I want to see, and this is already like a really good trend, but like breakdowns, right? I want to see how you achieve something, and the last piece that you did, very promising in terms of breakdowns, right? Try to again have context and like then the breakdown next to it so that we can immediately see what's happening. Like you did it kind of really well. The only thing that was missing there was like the poly count somewhere on that video, and then also like Angelo brought up, having the UVs next to it too, right? So that we can see how you laid out the UV, and that was basically perfect otherwise in terms of breakdowns. Yeah, and then she's also asking us to look at the latest challenges posting as well. Is that for the ArtStation challenge?
Yes, just realized.
Where's that? Down here.
Some cool stuff. Yeah, like I was looking for it. But yeah, like I can see the storytelling improvements, and yeah, the amount of stuff on that Neo Tokyo challenge, crazy. Can see some materials as well. Yeah, much better defined. Sorry, yeah, I'm just scrolling through the thing. I went a bit ahead of myself. Yeah, yeah, some great texture showcasing, assets, like even the asset breakdowns. Everything is within context, very consistent looking.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Did you see that first frame?
Yes, like, I'm at that right now.
In the GIF, the second frame. Look at that lighting. How contrasting that was. Kind of just have to wait on these damn GIFs. That's the only annoying part about it.
Yes. Ooh, yes.
Because I feel like, ooh, that is nice. And then they kind of like, it weakened a little bit over time, right? And then you realize what was happening and tried to get it back. But I feel like that second frame is like really strong in terms of like lighting, very contrasting.
I really like the final lighting as well. It has some nice posterized feel, like those purples and pinks and blues are working quite nicely. But yeah, the part in between, it felt like it was missing something.
Yeah. This is cool. The only question that I have is, why is this not on your portfolio?
Yes.
So, And I ask that really as like just a question, right? Because I wonder if there was a part of your decision making that said like, is this good enough? I feel like something like that might have happened. Do you feel the same, Angelo?
Yes, it seems like you submitted it as finalized, so I would definitely add it. I think it would be one of your stronger pieces if that was in your portfolio. And as you saw, we totally missed that there was a challenge tab. I don't think any recruiter would actually notice that. And you, yeah. It's a pity because you've done so much nice work here, like those call-out sheets with the graffiti, the assets themselves, the posters.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so she didn't win anything, so I thought it wasn't good enough. That doesn't matter really, right? Because usually with these challenges, what is happening is that you have like industry professionals taking part. So the chances that you're gonna win, I mean, you're an industry professional as well. What am I saying? But you're gonna have like really, really talented people that just like live, breathe, and die. You know, like game art. So yeah, like when I took part, like the challenge was just crazy. You know.
I've tried 5 times and I've only managed to finish once, so that should tell you enough.
Yeah, I took part 2 times. The first one was a disaster, and the second one, I won honorable mention, right? But I feel, oh my god, even in that, right? There was so many learnings in there. So it doesn't really matter if you won or not, right? It's more about like, do you think that this is going to add value to my portfolio? And if that answer is yes, like Angelo said, right? Like, I think this is going to be one of your stronger pieces. Add it on there, right?
Yeah,
because
definitely.
Especially now, if we look at like the overall portfolio, right? Most of it is like, well, apart from your professional work, it's like really realistic, right? And then you have this piece that like breaks it and kind of showcase that you can also do different styles as well, right? And take like a different spin on what realism means. I also have some feedback to make improvements, but didn't have the power to apply it anymore. Yeah, that's a tricky one, because I understand that. Yeah.
Honestly, it doesn't feel like a work in progress, and it's been a while, so I would just post it as is.
Yeah, and I think worst case scenario, let's say you make your next project, right? And then you still feel like, the challenge, like, I don't know what I should do with it, then you can kind of take it offline, right? Or kind of unpublish it, or whatever you want to do with it. But yeah. I would have honestly 100% missed it if you didn't point out that you took part in challenges, right? And that's not necessarily something to do with you, but that's just like ArtStation, right? Like if it's not on your page, like I'm not gonna see it. So just put it on there. Justin is coming in and saying, it's not about winning, but more about what you learned. Exactly.
Just like the Beyond Extent challenges, you mean?
Oh, nice plug, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, I didn't win last time. It was still a great experience, you know? I put it in my portfolio.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, no, the same thing with these challenges as well. The one where I was happy from, like I did put that on my portfolio. The other one is kind of just like hidden in the challenges tab, you know? So I'm kind of happy that ArtStation just doesn't automatically add them, because then I would have had to figure out like how to remove them.
How to nuke them from orbit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, oh my god. No, cool. Thank you so much for posting your portfolio. I hope this helps. And best of luck, you know, like in the future, if you're thinking about applying somewhere else, if you want to move potentially in the future, best of luck. All right.
Where are we going next?
Have a look. This is the concept. Next up is Eloy. Eloy Caro. Talking about the team challenges.
Oh.
We got the last post on there. If you wanna start with giving like your first impressions on this one, then I'm gonna quickly grab some water. So
Sure thing, yeah. I see Eloy is also like a 3D generalist, so I'm gonna like judge the overall look of the portfolio on that. So Eloy is a junior 3D artist based in Barcelona, 3D animation and virtual environments graduate. Yeah, so we're looking into, we got the Beyond Extend challenge, we got a golem. So I'm just going through all those things, waiting for the like title to pop up because it doesn't automatically show up immediately. We got some fan art, we got some wood, beams and logs and an asset pack, and we got weapons.
yeah, some hand painted weapons. Cool. Okay. First thing that I'll immediately fire away from. There's definitely improvements that we can make to the thumbnails. We're going to be discussing that in just a bit, I'm sure. Also, the fourth thumbnail, which is like the Violet Hold fan remake, the black bars in the thumbnail itself, like if the rest of them don't have that, try to maximize like just the image, right? It always looks better. Again, it has to do with like coming across as like I'm taking care of my portfolio rather than I'm taking shortcuts with my portfolio.
Yeah, and since like he added the Unreal logo, I guess that was intentional, and it was like an actual thumbnail.
Yeah.
So I think
exactly.
the golem, for example, is like a very nice example of how you can successfully make a thumbnail to showcase your asset, like get up and close, personal, so as the interesting stuff. Yep. And just make us wanna press on that environment or like that portfolio piece.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like the thumbnail on the golem, it looks really nice, you know? I feel like because I also know the work, right? Like the team challenge, there's definitely better angles. Like this is the main angle, right? But even the crop on the main angle looks pretty weird. Like you have the main focal point in the background, but then you crop like a part of it. So probably framing that a little bit better. It's going to help you a lot.
Was that a team decision, or like did everyone use the same thumbnail? Or is it up to an individual? I don't remember exactly what happened with our team. I think in our case, I just uploaded some thumbnails. I told everyone, feel free to use that one. Feel free to grab another one if you want. Something of your own.
I'm gonna say something contentious. Like, honestly, if you... Let's use this roleplay as an example, right? You hand me like 3 thumbnails and I don't like any of them, I'm making my own. Right? That's what it comes down to. Because at the end of the day, like... It is really nice, right? You have that team spirit and you finish something together, but it's still at the end of the day your portfolio, right? And about like how you sell your work. And maybe this is like a very deliberate decision on Eloy's part to deviate, but maybe not in the correct way, right? I want to ask you a very spicy question because this is like something that comes up like regularly. What do you think about like the Borderlands fan art in the thumbnail? My face is covering it.
Yes. I would borderline accept it because it's quite clear that it is a fan art on the title. Sometimes people like I wouldn't do it myself, and I generally tend to not appreciate using like the logos of like established franchises whenever you're making fan art. So that's my basic stance. But if it's very clear, like this case, that it is a fan art because you actually went out of your way to add that in bold, and I can actually read that from thumbnail view. I'm borderline okay with it. Although I would still not do it personally.
Yeah, I would also like.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, there's been some cases where people add fan art, but it's like in tiny letters, and that feels misleading. I'm not okay with that, for example.
Or if you don't add fan art in a thumbnail, like.
Oh yeah, that's a no for me.
That is gonna cost you points, I think. Like, because then you're trying to. The way that could be seen from, like, if you were to apply to that studio, right, that you did the fan art of, is that you could be trying to impersonate as a person from that studio. And that's really bad. You know, you don't want to ever have someone ask that question in an interview, because that would be horrible. I do agree in this case, like, fan art is pretty big. I usually just err on the side of no, and let the art just speak for itself, right? But I think if I were to do it, then this would be like an okay approach.
Or like make it somewhere satirical. Say definitely not Borderlands or something like that.
Oh, that's cool. But I guess that would work perfectly with Borderlands as well, right?
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
And like you're already using the other tricks, for example, the framing, the ink splashes on the back. So like it has the same aesthetic basically on the thumbnail. So yeah, just showcase how much you can match the vibe of that like game or franchise without even having to use the logo as much as you can.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's genius because then what you're doing is you're taking the source material and you're putting your own spin on it, right?
Yeah.
The same as you would do with like concept art, for example, right? You can take it and then showcasing that you're an artist and put your own spin on it and make it better than it was, right? Or put your own thing on it. Yeah.
Or even find the font that this game used. Write something similar but not exactly Borderlands, for example. Could be Border Grounds. Yeah, anything to like get that recruiter or that person viewing it intrigued, but actually not being using that trademark. So you're also on the clear if anything happens.
Yeah, it's also a great idea. I love that. Border swamps, here we come.
Border swamps.
Okay. Immediately from the thumbnails, I'm gonna make an assumption. I feel like the last piece on here, like the low poly stylized swords, that is outdated. We're gonna look at the project itself, right? Maybe just dive into it. But I feel just by looking at the thumbnail that is something that doesn't really belong on your portfolio, especially with the quality of the work otherwise, right? There's some cool stuff happening here. I would say maybe this is more like a case of presentation rather than anything else, where if you present it in a different way, that you could still make it like current, right?
Yeah, it's kind of tricky because I can see that most of the things are hand painted, so you can't really use lighting, right? But then everything looks flat somehow.
Yeah.
So.
Or maybe it has
maybe it's
to be
the
like
background as well.
Yeah, it's definitely the background. I think the background just almost full black with just weird text, right? The text doesn't really do anything in this case. If you were to present this to me as like it's a piece of a market stall, right? And there's like a couple of weapons like on the market stall itself, and we're looking at them as a buyer, that would be interesting. Maybe I'm gonna throw something out here. Last team challenge, you made a market. Maybe go back, boop, put the two together, see if that could work. I don't know. It'd be interesting.
It is the market of wonders.
Exactly. Yeah,
Could
I would honestly
wonderful.
just like one market stall. I would take that out of the project and then just present like a couple of swords like on that single market stall or something, right? It doesn't have to be much. Like I'm just trying to tweak the presentation a little bit. Let's see. What are these planks?
See, I don't know the exact context of it, but I wouldn't have two very similar portfolio pieces be about just planks. I would probably keep the stylized wood asset pack, which is much more full, and I think the presentation is very nice on that one. So
yeah, I think
just comes off.
I think what's also happening here is that you're trying to combine two things, right? You're trying to make a portfolio piece and then also trying to sell a product at the same time, which is really tricky because it feels fake either way, right? Like what sells way better is if you were to make like an actual environment that you can use for your portfolio and then have it broken down into like a pack that you can then link people to, right? Because then it also serves for like additional selling points, right? Because then you're showcasing the usability of the pack on top of the visuals. On your portfolio, I feel like this doesn't really have like enough. It doesn't add like enough interest by itself. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
presentation is nice, right? Like you got the breakdowns, you got like the texture overviews, you got all the stuff laid out as I would expect it to, which is really nice. Like all the stuff is there. I think just like the actual artwork doesn't really fit within the rest of your portfolio.
And honestly, since you already got one environment, maybe you could make another one to just showcase those assets. Like you already have a wood asset pack, you already got those beams and logs. Maybe you can utilize those things in the next environment and like make them part of that environment.
Yeah.
And then you can showcase them in a much like better context, in a more fuller context, in a way.
Eloy is in the chat and he says, "Yep, I'm working on that right now."
Nice.
So I just want to say, like, I do really like that you're doing this, right? Like this sort of really experimental phase where you're trying to figure out like how to sell something and what is an effective way of selling it, right? I've been there myself. I did some weird stuff to just try to figure out what the hell what am I doing, right? Like trying to sell things. So I like that you're doing this. I think you just need to build like some sort of separation between this is my professional portfolio and this is like the thing that I'm selling, because they don't have like the same target audience that you're trying to aim for. But yeah, that's great that you're working on a portfolio or like an environment using all those pieces right now, because that honestly is going to make like these assets sell way better than just having them presented as like, hey, here's a pack, right? People don't want to be sold a pack, they want to be sold a vision, something. And that's what you need to show them, right? But yeah, still, I love that you're doing this. Keep going with this. Try to make money with this because it is worth it. Then, back to portfolio review. Let's have a look. Have you seen the latest team challenge actually? Or like not the latest one, I think. This one.
I saw the final results.
Yeah.
I wasn't really following the whole challenge. Look, man, I'm busy.
I get it. I was more asking like if this is gonna be a surprise to you, you know?
No, I think I've seen it in one of the other, like the previous portfolio review we did. I think we covered it. Like we saw someone that had the same piece, so I assume they were team members.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really love the lighting and what would you expect me to say? It's like a very cool, like a moon, cool tones, and then we got the warm tones coming in from the tunnel cave. No, it's not a cave. No, it's not an aqueduct either, right? It's just an opening.
It's a tunnel.
It's a tunnel.
A gate.
Okay. I don't see the doors. No, it's not a gate.
Oh, it's an open gate. It doesn't have doors.
Okay.
You're still working on them, okay?
Yeah, super cool stuff. I love how the pavement like has geometry and like has enough roughness break up over there to highlight all those small lights in the background.
Yeah, 100%. Like that pavement, like I was afraid of
Oh.
that because we had like pretty flat pavement at a certain point, and then the team came back with this, and I was like, yes, this is awesome.
Yeah, it always like makes everything a bit more interesting. And you can even like, you don't even have to keep it flat. You can make it like not condensed. Oh, I'm struggling with the word.
Condensed.
No. Like, yeah, get it lower basically whenever people are walking, because those
Oh.
those pavement stones are basically gonna start to get pushed down like as the time goes by.
I get
But
what
yeah,
you mean.
it's I cannot find the word right now. But yeah, it's like super cool. I love the storytelling. Like I love all the amount of visual information that I can perceive from the image. Although I'm very cautious to like give a like portfolio review for that because it was a team challenge. So I don't really know exactly like what part of the image everyone did.
Mm-hmm.
I can see the
Yes,
lamps,
so-
I can see the props if I scroll down. But yeah, again, like I can see the comment that said props made with teammates with textures and beams. So
Yep.
mm,
Yeah, exactly. Like it's good that you highlight that stuff, right? Like just showcasing like your responsibilities within the team. That's great. I think that the presentation is okay. I would love to see like let's see. Art mostly on
maybe
props.
some more breakdowns, like give it the same treatment as you did, for example, with the like wooden beams.
Yeah. But I wonder how much you can do, right? Because this is the tricky part about team challenges and also professional work, by the way, is trying to showcase something where if you didn't do the textures, for example, like then that's not your thing to show, right?
Yes, no, that's
I
fair.
wonder maybe that's the case here. If you did do the texturing on some of the assets, for example the lamps, showcase that off, right? Like make like a little overview, like you did with like your other portfolio pieces. We got the golem next. Little cute golem boy.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. Breakdowns are really good. I feel like you're doing a lot of interesting experimentation with your backgrounds. Like it has sort of like a graphical style to a lot of it. I would definitely experiment, maybe not with the golem, right? But for example, with a team challenge, try to present it more in world rather than on like a gradient background. Because the issue that I have with gradients, they very quickly start to feel like how would I say this? Like they're badly designed. Right? It's relatively easy to just do like a circle gradient, and because it's so easy, like it's been overdone to death. So now you kind of want to find like another graphical approach to something. Like maybe just naming stuff, right? Like maybe do a cutout of a circle and then have like another sort of background behind it or something like that. Take inspiration from like comic books or like whatever fits the style of what you're doing the best, right? Yeah.
Yeah, see, I agree with you. I don't really like gradients anymore, but I've gone full circle, and I think my brain just ignores them now. So I don't know, it's a weird thing. If you really want to keep the gradients, one thing I would recommend is just a tiny bit of noise or grain on your renders, because this will get rid of the color banding that happens when you compress this to a JPEG.
Interesting. Great little
It
tip
also
there.
makes everything, more cinematic, I guess, but I'm a lighting artist.
Yeah.
I like to add grain to even stylized stuff, so don't quote
honestly,
me on that.
like from looking at like other people's portfolios, right? I don't think this is like the worst ingredients that I've seen. I think it fits really nice. The focus is still heavily on the character, right? It
Yeah.
does a good job of silhouetting it. So that's why I don't know. It's not particularly about this one, but I feel like if you're experimenting with like a background style, like try to go further than just like a gradient, right?
Yeah, and
But I do-
especially if you keep it as as low contrast as possible, that helps a lot. So like you can still have a gradient, but try to hide it in a way because you can make it feel like a flat background, but still have some gradient in there, and like kind of mask it off as something that's not a gradient.
Let's jump over to the Violet Hold remake. Because I think, honestly, this would be a dream for you, Angelo. Like just going in there and fixing the lighting, because I feel, and this we've talked about this like thoroughly, right? Because Eloy was a part of like Whip Wednesday, and I still feel that you could have done like way more with the lighting, because it, in my opinion, it feels like very flat in the end. Like there's no interesting things happening, no color contrast.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I would definitely would like to see like a different lighting scenario than that. Like I think you've done very nice work in terms of like the modeling, the assets, the dressing. I can see some storytelling, but it kind of gets lost with the lighting. I appreciate the god rays, for example, but yeah, I had to scroll through to actually notice that those god rays are coming from like a broken part of the ceiling. So maybe it's like a couple of different things that could be addressed here. Like maybe first of all try like bigger portion of the ceiling to be broken down. Oh, I can now see on the first image, I think that side of the wall is also broken down. But yeah, it's not exactly clear what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And you already have...
Yeah, that's like the main point, right? Like there's I know that you did so many cool things because we talked about like if you're doing destruction, like I kind of want to see like a layering effect, right? You did such a good job of like putting that in there, but then you cover everything like in shadows, right? And not make it visible. I'm not saying that everything needs to be like lit up, right? But having like a bit more contrast and maybe having like a daytime lighting and then have like the interior be more like dimly lit so that we get like something of a contrast. Yeah, I think that could definitely be interesting. Just to
maybe a golden hour scenario, so that the god rays are coming almost perpendicular. So and you get like that warm lighting from the outside, but everything inside is cool. So like you get that nice contrast of values.
That's exactly how I would play it too. Like something that gives like a contrast between like the blue interior, and then I would try to find like a lighting scenario that would work like as a contrast, right? And golden hour is perfect for that, right? Eloy is saying lighting is still really hard. I get it, man. I get it. It is really tough. But it's also kind of a shame that such a beautiful piece loses a lot of points because the lighting isn't there, right? I get that it's hard. Like I struggled with this for a long time as well. But I think if you wanna simplify it down, right? Like it's really going back to art fundamentals. Look at color theory. Look at complementary colors. Look at all those things where you can be like, oh, if I know that my scene is gonna be color X, and if I want to add some interesting things happening, I need to have color Y coming in, right? And then you can kind of work around whatever that needs to be, but at least if you know what kind of the colors need to be as like a rough block-in, then you can kind of make up scenarios around that, right? Angelo said, okay, golden hour. Okay, cool. You could change the colors of the portals to be a different color, and we could still talk about like a lighting scenario that could work for the outside and just flip it on its head, right?
I was gonna say exactly that. Like, if you wanna keep the nighttime scenario, just make those doors that are bluish now, make them something more warm, red, pink. Maybe have them the same color as those lamps on top of them, and like make them actually emit light, so that you get the contrast from those, and then the rest of it could be pretty much flat and still got, yeah, those complementary colors working.
Yep. Yeah, I think honestly, it took me a long while to go back to basics, right? Because I realized that at a certain point, like, oh, there's something missing here. And like, honestly, the fundamentals are going to be so crucial when it comes to lighting specifically, right? Also, kind of having a rough idea of like, oh, if I'm going to use this type of color, it's going to evoke this type of emotion, right? And this can be like, can be loosely interpreted, right? But if you have an idea, that's going to give you like a guideline for whenever you want to like light your next portfolio piece. Yeah. I think it's time for a little summary, right? So what are we thinking here? I'm just gonna go piggyback on like what we said before, right? Like I would definitely like try to relight the Divided Hold. I think there might even be no, I'm gonna keep it to that. Like just relight this one, for example, because that is potentially an easy win to lift up your portfolio, like in a drastic manner.
Definitely. For me, as a second point, yeah, just use those like that asset pack you've got on the environment that you said you're working on. So I want to see another environment using those assets that you already made, get them, like, showcase them in a better context. Maybe same thing could be said with the weapons that you've got. Like, you already made great work with those. Especially we didn't cover it, but the King Hammer is also pretty cool, and like a very nice evolution compared to like the previous swords.
Yep. Yep.
Although I don't see any love given to that in terms of breakdown. Like, I would also give that the same love as you did with the Aztec Golem. But I get it. It might be an older piece.
Yeah. It's interesting. My last one is definitely gonna be is gonna be optimizing your portfolio. Really thinking about like what needs to be on your portfolio, what is the best stuff, and just hiding the rest of it, right? And if you don't think that something, for example, I don't know if you feel this way, right? But if you feel like Divided Hold was not worth pushing to your portfolio just yet, don't do that. Hold off for a little bit, like take a break, get like a palate cleanser, right? So that you don't keep like pushing when you don't need to. Take a little bit of a break, and then come back to it after like a week or two, and then try to do like another lighting pass with a bunch of fresh eyes. Because at the end of the day, what is gonna matter the most is how good the quality bar of your entire portfolio is. And if you then like realize that the lighting is not making it shine like you want it to, that's a sign that you don't need to push it yet, right? There's so much hidden already. That's fine, Eloy. There's a bunch of stuff
Story
hidden
of my
in my
life.
portfolio. Oh god, yeah, I was looking at my project graveyard. I keep like a folder of my project graveyard. It is 750 gigs large. So I'm not saying that you should get to that number, because that number means nothing, but just to showcase that we all have a graveyard of work that we left behind to get to the good stuff, right?
I was just going through my portfolio manager on ArtStation. I think I have somewhere around 35 to 40 unpublished pieces. It's just scary.
It is, man. It is. Yeah, so you can really make quick wins with like deciding what needs to be on your portfolio and what needs to be hidden, right? Yeah. I want to throw out like another feeling. I don't know if this is correct in any way, but I feel like there is something about like you working on this golem that feels like it aligns really well with your passions. Because that golem, like, I can kind of feel that you really enjoyed working on it. Like, you can tell that from just like the care that you put into the presentation, the care that you put into like the bot itself, whether that is because of sculpting or because of characters. I'm just gonna throw that out as like a question, right? Because there might be something there that could be an indication of what you want to do in the future. So think about that, right? Because you also call yourself a 3D generalist. I don't know. Maybe it makes more sense to go a little bit more into characters, potentially, right? It's a question worth thinking about.
I love the diplomatic approach on that.
It's so tough, man. It's so tough because I'm not gonna, like, I never want to be the deciding factor of someone's future, right? Like, people should like think about that question and then answer it for themselves. Because if it's influenced by my opinion, then I think we're doing something wrong. That's the way that I
that's
look at
totally
it.
fair. Yeah.
Because I would feel bad. Not really into characters, to be honest. What? What is this golem doing here then? Like, this looks so good. What? Okay. Yeah. Interesting. I think I'm gonna leave it at that. Thanks for thanks for showing your portfolio. No, thank you so much for showing your portfolio. I appreciate it, man. I'm really looking forward to what you're gonna do in the future, right? Like, especially when it comes to like the merging that I see happening now with your environment skills and then also trying to make a little bit of money, right? I went through that same thing myself. I experimented a lot and then I found something that worked for me and I got a lot of fulfillment out of it. So keep chasing that, and if there's anything that I can help with, just send me a DM, right? Because I think that's important for the future. Oh my god, flabbergasted. Tim's flabbergasted. Okay, was for practicing. I mean, that's a good practice.
Yeah,
that's well executed practice. Okay, next up we got sorry, it's not Elijah. Raphael from Bordeaux, France. I'm an environment artist striving to perfect my work day after day. Oh god, not the cursed word. You're never gonna reach perfection. Always on the lookout for new technologies and always motivated. Cool. There's some props, there's some environments here. I'm gonna pick the first one this time. Oh wait, let's start with overall impressions first. I think, yeah, there's some good stuff on display here. I'm really fascinated by this one, just by like the tape recorder, right? Like, I'm fascinated by the material that's on top of it. And I'm just like, ooh, I want to click that. That looks juicy, you know? Like, it's a material that you can almost feel. It has like that tangible feel to it. But yeah, the rest looks good. Got a game concept as well. Oh. Uh-oh. Okay, this is going to be interesting to discuss. There's a whip post in here, but it's not the last piece on the environment. So I think that whip is dead. But let's have a look in a bit. No, I'm going to click on it. Fuck it. Let's go there first. Work in progress. Creation of an environment inspired by The Last of Us. Modular assets and focus on optimization. Okay. Cool.
Oh, you know what? I wasn't looking at the stream at the moment, and I clicked on at another whip. So we should
Oh,
definitely
there's another
discuss
one?
that. Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, there's another. This is
Oh,
also
there's
whip?
3. Yes. Wait. Yes.
Okay, just straight up, don't put whip on your portfolio. Your portfolio is not meant as like a working progress container, right? If you wanna post whips, that's totally fine, right? At least separate them in like a different folder, or even better, if you want to keep people updated from your work, do that in a blog post, right? Blog posts can be really effective if you use them well. If you're doing a blog post, I would not do it only on ArtStation, but you can really work like blogging as like keeping people updated. Okay. So let's have a look. So Neo Tokyo is for the challenge, right? And this is also still whip. It was really nice to take part in this challenge. I learned a lot, especially about project management. Okay.
I mean, it feels finished to me, finalized at least. And it was posted 4 months ago, and I assume it was for the challenge, as Raphael says. So I don't understand why you would have it marked as a whip in your title.
Yeah. I think in this case, right, if it's not finished yet, I'll be adding a few details as I go along. If it's only details and you want to have something on your portfolio, just post it on there, but don't call it whip.
Yes.
That's more than fine. If we then go to some of the other ones, for example, the abandoned bank, I can tell that that's a whip.
Yes,
and
definitely.
that then shouldn't be on your portfolio. And then we got another one, right? There was like a third one as well.
Yeah, the stylized abandoned city.
Yeah.
Which I also want your opinion on. It doesn't look stylized to me in terms of textures and approach, right? Or like proportions, everything looks fairly realistic. I mean, it has like an old school look into it. I don't know if that was intentional. Or yeah. I guess it was intentional since, yeah, he calls it stylized.
Interesting.
So but I'm very conflicted about it.
So, it's definitely not stylized, right? Let's get that out of the way, like, immediately. I feel like maybe because some of the textures look a little bit stylized. That's
See that brick wall,
why?
for example.
Exactly. But I think, honestly, that's more of potential lack of skill when it comes to the creation of textures, and then calling it stylized, like, afterwards. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's more like a band-aid on top of something that didn't really work out, and then calling it stylized. That's the feeling that I'm getting here. Because the rest of it, let's make sure. So we have a couple of asset packages as well, right? Storage house set, downtown West Modular underground subway.
Oh, yeah, just noticed that.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to be in those packs, right? But if you made the vehicles and all that stuff, like, that's a lot of work. Let's see. Assets are made by me. Yeah, some of the vehicles are made by them as well. Okay, honestly, for this one, this is, I think, a case of massively overscoping. But this is really easy to salvage, right? The only thing that you need to do is pick a nice corner, make it into like a nice set-dressed area, tell a little bit of a story with it, and you got a portfolio piece. Super easy. And if you're still missing out on assets that you didn't incorporate into this post, make a secondary post from different buildings in a different setting.
Corner, yeah.
Yeah, and just make a couple of like really interesting things, add like a bunch of breakdowns on top of it, and you're good. right? There's so much content here. You've got like a portfolio worth of content in this post.
Like, yeah,
But it's
800
not
assets just for
Yeah.
this. And like,
Yeah, it's
I
crazy.
cannot really see all of those. So there's definitely going to waste.
Yeah. David, that's a good question. Young Crisp answered it already. But you have to be a community member, and you can join us using the link down below. But yeah, man, this is such. I feel sad because this feels like a wasted opportunity. You know, like there is like a portfolio worth of content here. It's just not utilized.
Yeah, definitely. I would like picking one small corner to work on would also help in terms of that you might probably not need those outside external asset packs. So that would also make the other person, like the person that views that portfolio piece, life easier. So they would know that you did all of those things by yourself. Because right now, yeah, it raises the question: did you make all the cars? Did you make all the decals or anything?
Yep.
Like the other person won't really know what Downtown West modular pack contains. So it will also always raise the question of like, that asset looks very nice, but did they actually make it, or did they use it from an asset pack?
Yeah, I'm so confused with this one. Like, if you really made like 800 assets, like it's just simply using them better, right?
Yeah.
Hey man, this is so interesting.
And like, if you make one small corner, as Tim said, you might not need 800 assets. Just pick 10 of these and focus on like making them as good as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Like, where I would start is this corner. Like, there's this corner with like the garbage in the corner, right? The textures need to be replaced on the wall, right? But the rest of it, just add like a bunch of assets. Like, I'm thinking there's so many stories that you can add, right? But you can add like a backed up car with like the hood open, like have the lights like shining onto like this corner, make it look like a person got like dragged out of like the car and dragged into this building for whatever reason, right? Like, you can do so many cool things with this.
Yeah,
it's
some broken surveillance camera on the wall, some electricity panels, some generators or whatever you can just stick in the wall, some antennas, satellite dishes.
Yeah, this is really interesting. So, okay, so out of those 3 whip posts, 2 are definitely salvageable. The other one, the abandoned bank, I would honestly not put on your portfolio until you finish it up properly. But the other 2, totally salvageable. Let's have a look. Is there anything that you want to look at next?
I think I'm a bit confused about the stylized assets that we've got. I thought I saw the same bus on the city.
That's what I was looking for as well, but I'm not Yeah, it is there. Like all the way at the bottom where you see like the overview of the assets, right?
But that's for another project. As far as I can tell, like those first assets. For the game Echoes.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. No, I'm not a huge fan of mixing things like that because, like, it just now raised the question to me: is that abandoned city environment also for that game, or?
Yeah. It's very confusing, right? Like, that's what I'm getting here.
So I would just separate everything, keep them as clear to understand as possible.
Yeah, because most of this seems to be for that game Echoes, because it has like the little logo as well.
Yes, if you scroll down on that portfolio piece, you're gonna see the same abandoned city scene. so the plot thickens even more.
Yeah, this is interesting because again, like you can make this into like a couple of pieces that look just really nice by themselves if you just put like the assets in the right place, you tell a story, that's it, right? Right now it feels like I've crawled into like a mad scientist's head and like this is what comes out of it, you know? Like it's so chaotic and it's so weird because like Angelo mentioned, like, oh, some of these assets are for a game called Echoes, right? But then like the full environment doesn't mention that at all. Oh, it does. I just read over it. Okay,
Oh.
so that's also for game Echoes. Okay.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh, see, maybe it would be worth to have the game logo on the thumbnail then as well.
Yes.
Because maybe that's why we totally missed that.
And also, was it only you that worked on it? Or was it multiple people? Because if it is only you, that would be impressive, right? And then you could definitely sell that way better than you're doing now. If you worked with like a bunch of other people, then we need to see what you were responsible for, like specifically. So interesting. Okay, so I'm just gonna cap that little section, right? So basically the last 5 posts are really confusing. But if you were to present them like in a better way and make them into like individual environments, right? Or like maybe even breakdowns of assets, you could do like, let's say 2 small environments and then 1 breakdown of like the most interesting assets that you've made and have that as like a separate post, right? That would be killer. Like I would love to look at that. And yeah, that would be more than good enough. But for now, it feels just like really confusing, you know? Okay, so put a cap on that. Let's move on to this occult detective
Office.
Yeah. Not much information here. I'm gonna scroll down a little bit more. If everything was made by yourself, great. I want to see like more breakdowns, right? Because this by itself, if everything was made by you, really impressive, right? But it's again that situation where you're just not selling it as like, hey, I'm proud of this. I made this all by myself. Here's like a bunch of breakdowns. Here's what I did. You know, there's just nothing here to like latch onto, and it's confusing from like a person looking at it for the first time, right? This one is a little bit more clear than the ones that we talked about before, right? We're going
I can tell it's an environment. Yeah.
Yeah.
More contained scope as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Just straight up, I love how those wallpapers are like destroyed in some parts of the walls.
Let's see. Yeah, I've got like the crumpling happening, right?
Oh,
video
yes.
as well. Oh, yeah. Like a nice effect. I love the little map at the end as well, right? It's very stereotypical. But like you have like the map with like all the red lines like connecting to like the main thing in the middle, right? Like stereotypical detective stuff. It works. We love it, you know, like it looks so good. Yeah, you got like this main statue. I like it.
Yeah, I'd mainly like my feedback would be on the lighting because yeah, the asset work is very nice and love the detail. Like that Chesterfield sofa is like looks super good. Those close-ups at the in the last image like showcase those props very nicely. Maybe like it would be worth to have like a separate art station post just to showcase the assets with some more breakdowns because yeah, we literally don't have anything here.
Yep. Yeah,
But yeah,
100%
I would
agree.
just go a bit heavier with the color grading because right now it looks like fairly neutral, so you don't get that much interest or like contrast in the color values.
Hmm.
And if, like for example, if you were to make any of those screenshots to grayscale, I kinda imagine that it would be fairly flat. You don't get, apart from those small point lights that you got on the walls, I don't see too many like dominant light sources. I mean, it's tricky because you don't really get too many actual light sources on that environment as it is an interior. But I don't see the ceiling light, and in most images, I assume that you got like a main light source, but it's always out of frame. Yeah.
Yeah, I think most comes from like the smaller lights, right? What is really interesting is that it looks like you used wall panels for the ceiling. I just noticed that now. Like in some of the screenshots, you can see that like the side paneling
Oh,
is used for like
yeah.
the. That's interesting.
Yeah, I would just refer back to real life references for that.
Yeah. Honestly,
because
you
I
could
don't really
potentially
know
get
how
away
it's...
with the floor, right? And maybe like tinting it slightly different or something like that. Something really simple.
Yeah, that's a good point. Lower the contrast just so it's not distracting.
Yep. Yeah, no, this is really interesting. I like this environment especially because it feels like more condensed. This is showcasing what you can bring to the table, right?
Oh, definitely.
So great work. We kind of looked at some of the other stuff. I'm gonna skip over the game concept. I think this is something that, without even looking at it, put that in a separate folder, right? And have like, hey, look, this is where I did like more experimentative like stuff. Put that to the side. Again, I don't want you to like hide it from your portfolio because it can still be interesting for someone to come by and be like, oh, this guy can do like really cool environments and materials and all that stuff. And then have like, oh, they can also do like a little bit of, I don't know, like blueprinting, Python. Or
prototyping. So like,
yeah,
I can see it's a playable game. I also have an itch.io page. So yeah, that's... But yeah, I wouldn't put any of the like small game jam type of work on my portfolio. So I would tend to recommend not doing the same.
Yeah, or like put them in a folder, right? Like that's I think to me what folders represent is like, hey, this is my landing page. This is what I think is important to you. And then everything else that's in the folder you can have a look at, but it's not what I necessarily want you to look at. But it's there if you want to.
It's a great talking point as well in interviews whenever you get to that stage. So
yeah, exactly. And that's also why I don't want you to hide it either, right? I want you to like put it on your portfolio, but put it under like extra skills or old work or game concepts, whatever, right? But still keep it there. Well, I feel like we looked at a lot of assets already, but I'm just gonna quickly glance at this one because the plastic on top. So nice. What is this presented in? Use Figma.
Oh, rendered in Blender. So unfortunately, I'm gonna crush your dreams and say that it's probably rendered on in Cycles.
I would assume so.
It looks too good to
works.
be a real-time material, right?
Yeah, or I was thinking Marmoset. I think you could pull this off in Marmoset, but
right.
yeah, in Unreal with the transparency sorting. Oh my god, or stuff like this is rough.
Yeah, maybe with path tracing now and getting like some super advanced shaders, I would be very impressed if you could manage to get that result. Hopefully soon with the substrate materials, might be able to do like such complex materials, but
yeah,
that's a topic for another podcast.
Oh boy, podcast mention. No, this looks really good though. Like I know that it's like, rendered in Blender. To a certain degree, like I don't care as much in this case because you already showcase in your other portfolio pieces that you know how to do like a real-time engine anyway, right? And if this could be an interesting talking point on the interview as well, where you say, why did you choose Blender, right? And if that answer could be something like, oh, because I knew that I was going to have issues with something like the plastic cover, right, in the real-time engine, that could be like an interesting talking point again, right? It's really cool. We've got like the decals in the alpha. I'm even gonna assume that this is not necessarily game art workflow. It's probably gonna be more like a VFX like type of thing, right? Yeah, or if it is like a game art thing, I want to see some breakdowns, right? In that case, but I don't assume it's gonna be. It can still be like a good project to showcase what you can do when it comes to like texturing, right? So don't let that take that away from it. Cool, and then we got some books. Just fun with Substance Designer. Yeah.
Some good books, yeah.
Straightforward. I like it. What I always like is, again, the context thing, right? Like, how would you use this in an environment? I think for this one, it might be tricky, right? Because it is so unique. Well, I don't know. There could be use cases. Like, I'm imagining like a very fantasy like library where you have like piles, like massive piles of books.
Yeah, so
like
you
that.
place some actual 3D book models on top, and then you use that
cool.
as a like cover, like this.
That would be interesting. I'm almost imagining like a vault, but instead of like gold, they're just like piles and piles of books.
You got books.
Let's see. Yeah, okay. What do we think about this one? Do you want to go first on this one?
I mean, sure, yeah. I would, just reiterate on the like that stylized, in quotes, abandoned city project. Like, make it more clear what your responsibilities were. If it was just you on the whole project, or if it was like other people. You probably did most of the props, or if not everything, because I can see you already have separate posts about a couple of those props. I would just make everything a bit more clear that this is a project that I worked on. These are some of the things I did, and focus on picking a couple of small corners, as Tim said initially. Just nail those. Get like the best visual quality you can get, most storytelling potential, because you did like some amazing work with those ones. But you're not showcasing that in the best possible way.
Yeah, I kind of split that up into 2 points, right? Because at first it was like a whole bunch of confusion about like what were we looking at, responsibilities, all that kind of stuff. And then the second point is I called it like redo the projects. But I'm not talking about like, oh, start from scratch and do all the assets again. I'm more talking about like the actual portfolio artwork, right? Like Angelo brought up, pick a couple of corners, make that into like something that tells a story, and that's like a really good way to salvage like those projects, because there's a massive amount of work that went into it, and right now like there's none of the payoff, which is kind of sad, right? I'll actually add that into it. Go ahead.
And also the whip phrasing on the project titles. Do you think we should have that as a separate point?
I feel like a lot of this is going to be about like just the confusing wording about things, right? So number 2 was like redoing the project and massive work with no payoff. And then definitely definitely no whip on your portfolio. Just in general, right? Just don't put anything that's work in progress on your portfolio. Keep it to your blog, or if you really want to, again, make like a separate folder where you only put your latest project that people can still look at it. Let's say if you're in a position where you're applying for jobs and you've been working on like a killer portfolio piece for like the last couple of months, you still want to showcase that, do it that way instead, right? But don't add whip to your portfolio, especially not on the titles, and then stop working on them, because that looks weird. Straight up. Like if I'm like the first thing that I think is, okay, you call this whip, I click on it, it's posted last year, okay, this is abandoned. Like, and immediately, like my expectations of that project are like way lower because of that. And it's also not a good look in general, right? Where you're like, oh, I'm definitely gonna finish this, guys, because I'm putting it here, and then no traction, right? And again, portfolio is all about selling yourself, right? So put your best foot forward and make sure that what you put on there is clean, finished, and well presented. An interesting one. I think this is one of the most interesting ones that I've ever looked at, because the quality of the work is there, guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's just the way that it's laid out and presented is just so confusing. Such a shame. But that also means that it's relatively easy to fix, right? Because you can take all the hard work and make a couple of environments in like a month or something like that, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like the time-consuming part is already done.
Exactly. Chris Evans is also saying, when we were talking about like the designer stuff, where if you were to add context to it, it's also a good way to flex your knowledge in designer. And then Dennis is bringing up the forbidden word, saying, a podcast? Huh?
I'm just saying.
Just saying. I thought you said before we went live that the podcast craze was done, you know? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, there's a market gap now. That's what I meant.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. So, we had 3 community members. Let's now switch it over to a member that Angelo is going to be taking a look at, and that would be Elijah Palmer. Do you want to give us like a little bit of context for that one?
Yeah, with these ones we usually have some more context, some questions that I used to ask. So what's your current situation and career goals? So Elijah graduated from his games art degree in September. Primary focus is in props and environment art. Have been passionate about different stylized art styles. So yeah, that's something we can already see. And he recently got interested in lighting, has done his first relight project. And yeah.
Okay.
So he's been applying to artist roles, but he's not really sure if he should apply into like for any lighting roles just yet. And yeah, he would love to basically look into for us to have a look at the relight scene. I mean, I think we're gonna have enough time to have a look into everything, so don't worry about that.
Yeah, I think he mentioned himself like the relight scene and the stylized scene, right? Like the stylized street.
Oh yes, sorry, I missed that. Yes.
All good. Let's just kick it off with the relight scene then, right? Yeah. Do you want to take it away? This is your wheelhouse, buddy.
Oh. All right. First of all, I had just had a quick scroll, and at the very bottom, I saw some references from Resident Evil. That's always cool to see that you are trying to match something as closely as possible to like a real world scenario. I mean, not a real world. Like it might be a game, might be a movie, but it's a real use case in the real world. So you're not just making stuff up. That's a great mindset to have, especially in the beginning. because your eye might not be the best at picking out like details or like how those colors work. So if you can study something that an expert in that field has done, that's always a great guide to have. Yeah, I'm just going through the images. I think it's very nicely and very close to the material, so like you did a great job at that. I want your opinion on that. Like maybe it's not the best environment to showcase that, because like it doesn't have way too many focal points, so it feels a bit like with that light scenario, it feels a bit like, I don't want to say boring, because I see the detailed lighting view and it looks cool with all those pipes. Like the light information is there, but there's no focal point or something to grab my eye, basically.
Yeah, 100%. That's the first thing that I would say is just missing. Like, if you scroll all the way down, right, you have the comparison of the marketplace image and then your version of it, basically. And if you compare those two, like the marketplace image looks like way more interesting in terms of like the focal point, and like you can see that there's like you've been guided around the image, where in your image like it feels like very what's the word, like simplistic. Like it's not, there's no like complexity to the lighting that you're adding. Like it's just you have a strip coming in from the left to the right. That's it. It's leading you towards the back, but there's nothing interesting to look at the back.
And it's the wide angle probably also doesn't work here as well, because it makes everything look bigger than it should be. Like on the original reference, everything like it uses a longer lens, so everything's a bit more condensed and like together. And also, as you said, it looks like, it feels to me, even like if we look into the God Rays, for example, it feels to me like the original used the custom setup, so I would definitely study how they did that. While yours is, seems like it's just a volumetric fog and just the direction and light that just casts that God Ray. So that's, another small thing to look into.
Yep.
And then maybe like some extra, I would like to see some extra post-processing. In the first image, I can see that you're using cinematic cameras. I can see some slight depth of field. Maybe it would be worth to like emphasize, like get to that into a more extreme level, just so you can basically use that as a guide to showcase what you wanna, like what your focal point is gonna be. Blur out those foreground elements and like focus on what your composition is gonna be. Like find a nice angle, go a bit closer to those boxes perhaps, get like some nice framing with these, add some boxes on the other side just so you can block it out, get some interesting frames.
Yeah, I think the highlight of that sentence, right, is, to me at least, is composition. Like it feels like you're not really sure yet what the purpose is of a composition, because I just did like a really quick draw over, right, of the boxes. I love using foreground elements because it adds so much depth to your environments, right, and the composition itself. However, the boxes that you've highlighted and the way that you positioned your camera, they take up like 40% of the screen, and it's just like a massive wall that we're almost looking at, and it takes away from a lot of the framing, I feel, where you could potentially like put them in like a better position to still have that foreground element that adds depth but doesn't obfuscate like a large majority of the rest of the frame.
Yeah, of the frame, definitely.
Yeah, but like I can see that you were consciously thinking about like, okay, I need to have some sort of foreground element and then like use my depth of field a little bit, right? So that you get that layering. Use that and then try to make it with what we said before, right? Like making a dedicated focal point, using the cinematic camera, and the overlays in the cinematic camera are like gold for this, where you have like the rule of thirds overlay in the cinematic camera. Use that. Very simple rule, but I love to use it. Very approachable for beginners as well.
And
Yeah.
if I may add one last thing, you can see in the origin. I was reading through the description a bit, and you mentioned that you used 8 rect lights, 3 spotlights, 1 direction light, especially for a portfolio piece, and especially when you're doing lighting studies. I wouldn't worry about like making naming those things. You don't have to you're not limited to using like specific amount of lights. Just go crazy. Use as you said. Are you seen in the original reference of that environment? They're making great use of localized lighting. So like you basically paint with those lights that you're placing around. So make sure you're using that to the fullest extent. Showcase the different like parts of the scene. Showcase those details here and there. Don't be afraid to add more lights. I mean, don't add 1 light every 5 centimeters or anything. But yeah, don't be afraid that you can only use like 8 rect lights or 3 spotlights.
Yeah. Because like the thing is, especially with your portfolio work, right? Like no one really cares about the performance that much unless you go into like a territory where you're showcasing that, like, I don't know, use like 300 lights for like a 1 meter corridor, right? Okay, you're doing something wrong there. But yeah, like what first needs to be done is always like the visuals, right? Like the visuals, the composition, focal point, like what are you trying to tell us, right? That's basically what that comes down to, like where you're trying to lead our eye. And then you could showcase like your lighting setup, right? If that works. But it's about the visuals first and then the technical setup.
Yeah, worst case, they're gonna ask you about how you went through and made that, lit that environment during the interview. You can say, yes, I know, like, this is not super production friendly, but I would have just used like those 3 lights. These are the main focal points. I would keep those. I would remove the rest. That like those were very secondary. So yeah, you can walk them through your like mindset on where would you prioritize that secondary lighting.
Yeah. What I find really interesting is like the overview of the values, because I feel like those are usually like I come from concept art basically, right? Like I always wanted to be a concept artist, so I'm used to seeing all of this. And like I kind of look, I love that you brought that up, but I kind of look at it as like light painting. And like in this case, if you just distill it to black and white, like it's like, okay, where do I want my focus to go? Because that's going to be the brightest color, like the most contrasting color, right? And then think about like, okay, what is not used to support my focal point? Then I'm going to try to dim those things down, just so that like one thing stands out compared to the rest. Because what usually happens is that, especially if you, in this case, use like one large light source, right? Is that a lot of it becomes like very samey all of a sudden. And there's no real like interest, or we're not being pulled to like one side of the environment.
Yeah, it's like the shadowed part is completely hidden away in this case. And it's the same because like the environment actually has lots of information on that side as well, as we can tell from the original screenshot.
I'm also gonna go out on a limb, and this applies to environment art as well, right? But if you have your reference there and your end result is not as good as a reference, you need to do more work.
Oh, yeah.
Like the same applies to like if you're doing a fan art of something, right? You set yourself a bar now. And you need to be like better, or like at least have like your own unique spin on it, right?
Yeah, especially when you place them side to side, side by side.
Exactly, because then you're calling for a comparison by whoever's looking at it, right? Yeah. Great stuff though. Like, it's your first relight, right? I know that we went like pretty hard on this one. It's your first one. Keep doing that. Keep experimenting. Keep challenging yourself. and play around with it, right? Because even if you're not gonna become like a full environment or like a full lighting artist, this is still gonna massively level up your game if you want to then do presentations on your own environments afterwards. All right. Should we then jump over to the stylized street one?
Yes, it's very colorful. I was already there, just wandering around. Love the colors, love everything.
Maybe before that, there's a couple of people here in chat. Mr. Demon is saying hello, hello, Mr. Demon, and then Magfal is saying, "Did I hear podcast?"
Someone's gonna ask about it like every 10 minutes now.
Yeah. We're basically doing it to ourselves at this point, right? Or like I'm.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Take us away, Angelo. What do you think?
All right, so just reading through the description, final module for Legends Master's Degree, based off Manarola in Italy.
Oh.
And taking visual
So
inspiration from Overwatch, so like Dorado and Paraiso. I don't think I've played that map. And
no idea.
so I feel so old. It's been years since I played Overwatch. But so in other regards, I want to push my own skill boundaries with modularity, making tile materials and environment composition, and everything's bad it might be. So that's awesome.
That's great. Man, first thing that comes to mind is because Manarola in Italy, such a beautiful place. What is stereotypical for that place is verticality, right? It's a city. It's a city built on the cliffs on the coastal side, right? So you get like a lot of verticality. It's interesting that is the inspiration, right? Because then immediately I'm seeing, or like I'm imagining, like at least like a windy road going up, with like lots of staircases left and right? Like lots of verticality.
Oh right, but
what?
I think we lost. Yeah, I think we lost you for like one moment. I was looking at the microphone. No. I don't know. Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, the thing is that you mentioned that, but I don't see too much verticality here. I can see some in the background. Like I can see some buildings on the second image that are like slightly higher up.
Okay.
But then again, I wouldn't go that deep because I don't have the real life context of how Manarola is.
Yeah, that's usually. I don't know.
It's very like a very extreme. Yeah, specific example, so I wouldn't
100%.
go too hard on that.
Oh no, 100%. Like, if you were to present this to me, like, and if we were doing an interview, and you said like, "Oh, this is based on Manarola," like, that would be like a fun conversation because I've been there, right? But it's not gonna cost you any points,
right.
Like in that sort of way, right?
I mean, straight up, I love how. Because you asked me initially to go ahead, and like I went on a very big tangent. I love how colorful the buildings are. Really like how much like there is storytelling here. I can see the like plant pots. I can see the bike, the Vespa. I can see like the small signs, like the fire hydrant, benches, things like that, boxes. I think you got a nice mixture of like medium like scale assets. If anything, I would add like some super like smaller details, like some rock rumble, some like broken off bricks. Yeah, because right now everything after the like the medium, not the macro level. I don't remember exactly how the scales work. So like you got the macro, micro.
Yeah. Micro
like,
is a small one, right?
Yes, it feels like you're missing something in between, perhaps. Like those, plant pots are like you got way too many plant pots placed in the first image. For example, might look a bit weird. Like I would like some more variation on that.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because it's not necessarily variation, but it's about like where you place them. I feel like you would oftentimes have clusters, right, where you have like, I don't know, someone's front yard or like someone's windowsill that is like full of like plant pots, right, and they kind of spill over into the street, and you would have nothing. Because if you start doing this approach where you add like plant pots like every half a meter, it repeats like really quickly, right? You can do that, but then there needs to be enough variation in those plant pots to make them stand out from each other. So another way to get around that is by just like placing them differently, clustering them.
I mean, yeah, it feels a bit like that it was intentional though. Like, I don't know if that's an Italian thing. Like, people place way too many plant pots all over the place. Because I can, like, the rest of the environment feels like it has enough areas of rest for my eyes, so it's not super bad. Just interesting that you placed like those assets over there all at once, and then you did a perfectly good job on like some other parts or like some different shots.
Yeah, it's very shot specific, right? Because the first shot has a lot of them, but then some of the other shots like are very nicely
Yeah, they're
done.
fine. Yeah, the one that highlights the Vespa, for example, I think it has like a perfect balance.
Look. Yeah. There's also one above that of like a blue door. That is quite nice. I think it's like 2 above that.
Oh, yes. I think,
3 above.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just nice. We got some contrast in the lighting as well, right? And like it's focused on like the door. Just
I love how like this is like the highlighted part of the image. Although I would say that I feel like the direction light is a tiny bit too harsh. Like, I can see that some of the some parts of some images, not all of the shots, are a bit overexposed at that part. So I would be careful with the intensity of my direction light. And also maybe it would be a nice opportunity, since it's like we're in Italy, everything's warm and nice. Maybe just make change the color temperature of that direction light to make it a bit more warm and like a bit more inviting. Because as you said on that blue door example, it feels like very harsh and very cold. The light that you're getting from the sun. And it's also like, I don't know why, but it looks a bit weird on the flowers on the left, because they're already very bright, and I suppose the wall over there is yellow, so everything just bounces back. I assume you're using Lumen, so it's present in UE5, so you're throwing like a very bright light source on a very bright color. It's gonna give you lots of indirect lighting.
I think one thing that I noticed earlier as well, it's not as apparent now. It kind of goes into like the same vein that we were talking about, like in the lighting scene, where it's like picking some sort of focal point and then balancing like the depth of field around it. Because I feel like in some shots, like what is a good example? Like some of the shots, like for example, the one with the red, what's that called?
The
like water
fire hydrant.
Fire hydrant. That's it. Yeah. So in that one, like you basically, because of the depth of field, like we're only seeing like 20% of the frame. Right, and it could be interesting to highlight like the textures that you've done on the fire hydrant, but then I would place the camera just like a little bit different so that we can still see a bit more. And maybe this is where I come back to what you were saying, maybe some smaller details, right, where you can see like a puddle under the fire hydrant and like it's dripping water or something like that, and make that like a little composition, right? And that could be cool.
Or like, if you're going that close to the ground floor, maybe get some custom geometry of those bricks, just to give it some more interest. Doesn't have to be throughout the whole scene, but just give it some extra love since you're going close up and personal.
Yeah, again, it's that thing where like if you go really close up or you're setting up a comparison, like people are gonna see that as a comparison, right? When it comes to those detail shots, the closer you go, the more details that I expect there to be.
Yeah, it's gonna be scrutinized a lot more.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I keep just like wide angle shots of my environment, because no one's ever gonna get close to anything. No, this is overall like a really interesting piece though, like very vibrant colors. I love that you have like the breakdowns, right? Like a lot of really interesting overviews at the bottom as well. There are some tweaks that we can do. The wireframes need to be like a little bit more in your face, right? Like they kind of blend with a lot of the assets right now.
Yeah, too subtle.
For some things it works, right? The fire hydrant, like that works. But I had to scroll for like a while before I even realized that there were like wireframes on it. Yeah, just making them like a different color or something like that. Also adding the poly count to it, right? Just like a slight thing just above the asset or next to the asset. Yeah, but I love that you're doing the breakdowns already. Like, I would, again, because you have such a beautiful environment, and let's say you want to do like a breakdown of the Vespa, like add it in your environment, right? Like clear the rest of like the assets, and then just use that as like a little bit of like a breakdown scene, you know, and present it in the same way as you would present your final environment with like all the camera tricks and everything, right? Like have a little bit of depth of field so that it blurs out the background and all that kind of stuff. Make it look interesting. Yeah, got some nice presentation for the materials as well. Yeah. Anything else that you want to add, Angelo?
Good. No, I also love the like progression GIF at the very bottom.
Yep.
I don't think, yeah. Love the asset zoo scenes as well, nicely presented. Again, might be worth to just add the brick or the stone floor that you're already using in the scene, just to make it a bit more interesting compared to just a gray background. But
yeah, just
you got some lighting in there already, so
yeah,
can't say that it doesn't work necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. Like it does an okay job as like a breakdown, right? Because it's simple, it gets the information across. Like it's more just like, I always find it like a shame that you have such a beautiful environment, and if you just strip it out, like you just take like the backs of buildings that are like completely flat or something like that, make like a little corner, and then use that as a presentation. you could do some cool stuff with that.
Yeah. But yes, I love how like the whole environment is complete. Like you showcase materials, you showcase modularity, you showcase unique assets, lighting, even. Yeah, it has everything. So if anything, more of that, please.
Okay. And then we go back to the main thing. Do you still want to talk about like the other stuff on there, or?
I mean, we can go through like those two other assets. We don't have too many things, anyways. So like, should we start with which one did you try? Okay, let's go with the Chesterfield armchair.
Chair.
See. Not just straight up saying not a huge fan of that one compared to like the rest of your work. So maybe it's like an older piece.
Yeah, 4 months ago, but that might also be when they posted it, right?
Yeah, because the full environment was the final module, as far as I can tell. For the
masters, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so this was probably a time limited assignment.
Yeah,
I assume.
Yeah. The main thing that I just like immediately dislike about this is that it's all one shape, and that doesn't look good, right? Like it's missing like that the vital parts when it comes to like actually like how this chair would be manufactured, right? Like how would it be made?
Yes.
It wouldn't be like one solid piece, well, apart from the cushion on the seat, and that makes it feel like really fake, like immediately.
Yeah, no matter how good of a sculpting job you do, like if it's not created in the same way that it would be created in real life,
Yep.
you won't be able to match the realism.
Yeah.
Also, to me, it's not super clear if it's intended to be a stylized piece or a realistic one, but I think mainly because of the texturing and like the amount of noise.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the modeling would refer mostly to a stylized piece, but then the texturing is realistic, and the material work. So it's very conflicting right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that piece is really weird. Like I don't think it adds anything to at this stage, right? I don't think it adds like anything of value to your portfolio. I would honestly say at this point, like I really want to see like those how it's manufactured and like splitting that up and like baking it separately and making it all really nice, and then leveling up like the texturing work that you've done as well. And then you could add that to your portfolio.
Although, would you
yeah.
say that, like, since they are aiming for an environment artist position, like, would you say, like, I would like to see that in a diorama or like a small, like, interior scene. Like, I don't feel like there's too much value in just having a prop. Although, Legend did mention props, right?
Yeah, so I can see that point, but I think in this case we're not even there yet. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, after all that work is done, but
Yeah, like
I wouldn't
there's
focus
still
too
like
much on just.
yeah, there's still like a lot of fundamental work that needs to happen first, before we can talk about that. But definitely, like if you get that stuff done, right? Like if you get like like you get the individual shapes, you get like really clean bakes on like all the different objects, like you get like a nice texture on that going. I would definitely take it just like a simple step further and add like a mega scans like floorboards or something like that, right? And put it in like a corner of a room or something like that with mega scan wallpaper. Super easy, and it's gonna take that up to the next level, right? Like maybe add one of those like old school lamps, light it really quickly. You can do so much cool stuff with like what Megascan gives you like already, right? So yeah, definitely agree.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. And I'm looking at the stylized door. Oh yeah, one minor thing. Yeah, as you are showing it right now.
Oh.
Nice improvement that we can see the wireframe a bit more clear, and the textures as well.
Yep. Yes. The sculpt. If you're gonna do like a sculpt, right? If you want to present a sculpt, I would also just have like, again, the sculpt needs to be way cleaner if you want to show it up. And also have like all the elements there, right? Like have the high poly like feet of the chair there too, so that it still is like the complete object, and you have like the high poly and the low poly like next to each other, so that we can compare, right? Selling yourself, right? That's basically what this comes down to, like showing your best side. And you were looking at the stylized door already, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the last one, anyways.
Yeah. Wow, 6K tries? That is a lot of geometry for like...
Yeah, and I don't even know where that is coming from.
It's the hammer, like the hammer of the door. Like it looks really dense.
Yeah, I mean that's the only part that it would be. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is worth mentioning, right? Like when you talk about topology, it's, to me, what's more relevant is always talking about consistency between the individual elements. So what I'm talking about is if you have the door knob that is like really optimized, but then you have a door hammer above it that is like really high poly, where we have two separate elements that have like a completely different density, and that's not going to work, right? So they have to be consistent in those two.
And also in terms of texturing, like those metallic surfaces in the first photo don't really work. Like I cannot really tell that there is enough detail in there in terms of geometry. So you're not really selling that the best way. It looks very flat on the first, like the marmoset render. It is kind of visible on the last one, like in the UE5 render. Like that's a massive improvement, but still it wouldn't excuse like 5,000 polygons.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has also to do with just like the lighting, right? It feels like just very flatly lit, even though it is like it's just like a storefront, right? So it's like very flat by its nature.
Yeah, you can't really do too much, but
you can still like light it up like in an interesting way, right? Like at least try to get like interesting reflections by placing lights in certain areas, right? So that we get like at least a little bit of like that metallic response that you're looking at.
Yes, like place some point lights or like some invisible emissive planes just to, as we said before, just paint that metallic surface with lights. Increase the radius for any lights that might need to just so you get like softer specular reflections.
Yep. It's all about that light painting, man. It's all about that sweet light painting.
That's what I do every day. Don't tell the bad.
Part of me is jealous, man. Yeah. It is, what I do like about this is what the size of it, right? Like it is a very concise like challenge about like showcasing like, hey, texturing and like showing that off, right? That's basically what this comes down to. Really interesting. I think that's a really good way of like leveling up your individual skills by having lots more smaller projects than having like the bigger projects where you try to do everything. I think what you're gonna notice is that you want to build up those individual skills and get better really quickly, and then at a certain point you have to make a switch to a portfolio project that is probably gonna be bigger. It's gonna be set in like a bigger world, has like, I don't know, it's a corner, it has something to it, it's telling a story, right? But that's what you need to build up towards.
Yeah, but seems like he's on the right track, so just
Definitely
give
is.
at it. Yeah, I like, if anything, just want to see like some more like complete environment work, just like that stylized street. And I think you're on a great path.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's one last thing, like one note that I wanted to bring up, and that's going all the way back to the beginning. And it's because you brought up that you wanted to do like environment props, and have also recently started getting into like lighting art, right?
Oh yeah, that's fair.
I think depending on the studio that you want to get in, right? Like at this point, like learning about lighting is definitely going to be a massive benefit to your environment artwork. But at a certain point, I think if you want to get into like the bigger studios, you're going to have to specialize. So keep that in mind if that is your end goal. That you can't beat both of them at the same time in a lot of the studios.
And yeah, like might be worth saying that since you already have the skill set for like an environment arts position, you can always pivot to like a lighting artist within that project or that team, depending on the occasion. So yeah, I think I don't want this to come through as me saying don't become a lighting artist. Of course, I need more friends. But yeah, I think especially in the beginning, like the environment art, you can start with environment art. You already got the skill set. Just use those real light exercises, practices as just you do your practice, you get better at lighting, and that has a benefit like throughout your whole portfolio.
Yep.
No matter the specialty. Oh, and one minor thing that I just noticed, you got a typo on your thumbnail on the stylized door.
Leah, is it? That is yeah. Well, if we're talking about the thumbnails as well, like the Unreal Engine logo on like the stylized street still has like a black outline on it, and I think that's because you might have like cropped the image, right? Like you sampled the colors, but it doesn't like it doesn't do it perfectly. Watch out with that, right? Like I know, especially the last one, super nitpicky. But that's what a portfolio is about, right? It's showcasing like this is the best that I can do. Awesome. Anything more that you want to add to this, Angelo?
Ooh, you always put me on the spot with these ones.
Sorry. No, it's just because I don't really have anything to add to it, right? So I think we discussed everything that I wanted to discuss. I wonder if there's anything from you.
I'm the same. We can just do the recap. Which is, my first point would be just, some more environment work. It's okay, so, what you can do. You already done it once. Just want to see, like the next evolution of that.
Okay, awesome. I think for me, as you're doing that, is focus on the basics, art fundamentals. What I saw in like some of your pieces is that you're still trying to figure out like what composition is. And there were some really interesting shots that you already had in the street, but then there were other shots that weren't really that interesting. So it kind of hints at like you're still trying to figure out the composition. So I really want to go and like focus more on kind of going back to basics a little bit, like really trying to nail those camera compositions. Focus a little bit more on the colors as well, and making sure that you can use the camera to like the best results, right? We saw some weird things happening with the depth of field and like not knowing where the focal point should be, like those kind of fundamentals, right?
Values, contrast, as you said.
Yeah, I'm writing them all down. I should have just like put fundamentals.
Oh no.
Yes.
Don't forget color theory, complementary colors. You can start writing those down.
No. Composition, all like fundamentals. That's where we're gonna go. Done.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, I want to go back to that chair, for example. Like, I think the main thing on that would be, as you said, like see how things are created in the real world. Use that as a reference point. And, I'm either like between that or like the technical part of optimizing the assets, but that's super minor though.
Yeah, I would say like number 4 for me would be context, right? It's sort of the stuff that you brought up, where if you have a chair, like try to build something around it, right? Like make it more exciting to look at. I think that could definitely be it. And you got the skills, right? Because Angelo brought it up like multiple times. Like the environment is looking great. You just have to like take the learnings that you have from that environment and also like apply some of those learnings to your presentation of like an individual asset too. Tell it to us. Awesome. Thank you so much, Elijah, for sharing your work with Angelo, and thank you for that additional context, because that's always like really useful, actually, just to know like what you want to achieve and like what you're currently thinking. And yeah, best of luck. Thumbs up from Angelo. Okay, cool. Let us switch over to just our heads for a second.
Oh no.
Oh. Yes.
Disgusting? Sorry, that was very British. No, I'm just.
This was an interesting session, man. Like, I'm still like reeling over like that one person with the what was the game that he was working on with like all the
Echoes.
very confusing. Yeah. It was interesting. Super easy to fix, right? But like super interesting.
Yeah.
That's on the portfolio.
It's like just yeah. The direction wasn't there basically, so.
Yeah.
It took us how much, like 5 minutes just to figure out the whole context of that, and we still have questions. So yeah, that's
Yeah. It's like that meme where like that woman is looking at like all the math equations, right? That was like me in real time. Angelo's cam is very symmetrical with the painting behind it, so people are already commenting on your on your backdrop.
See, we had a discussion. Like, I want to hear from the chat. Does it look straight or is it tilted? Because I already made a correction to it based on how the camera is showing it. Like, if I look into the frame, it looks very wrong on my end. Oh my god, it's gonna haunt me forever. It's not. See, I need a more professional camera. Get some depth of field there.
Yeah.
Frame it like nicer, as we said. Get some nice composition, some foreground elements. I'm gonna use
I was about to say, you got your foreground element, like the mic, you know? Just blur that out in depth of field. Hell yeah. You're muted!
Oh no. Yes. See, if I'm moving it around, it makes like a weird guitar noise. So yeah, I have to mute my microphone just so.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I don't think anyone wants to hear that right now, so I'm gonna stop moving my microphone.
And there was also a question in chat where the link is to the Discord server. You can find that in the description down below. But thank you all so much for being here. That's gonna be us for this month. Me and Angelo are gonna be talking about some stuff, how we're gonna approach things in the future. It is always really nice to have both of us here, though. I enjoyed our session together.
Yeah, always very fun.
Yeah. If you want to get your portfolio reviewed as well, first you need to become like a member of our community, and then share your work in the portfolio review channel. And then we're currently working through like a back catalog of people, but hopefully we'll get to you soon. All right, Angelo, thank you so much for joining me again. And
yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
always a pleasure.
We'll see each other in the next month, right?
Yeah, I'll be around.
Yes, yeah. Well, I don't know where I'm gonna be, but yeah, hopefully I'll be around.
I might be traveling, but no, I think I'm good for that.
No! We'll figure it out. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. See you in the next session. Bye-bye.
Bye.